Well, first things first, Ron, good to see you again. How are you?
You pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, all is in its right place. It seems like for the first time in a while.
That's interesting to hear you say that because on the album, now we're moving quickly to the album, but there is some mention of not having figured things out to some extent. So, what makes this a good time for you?
Uh, well, these days I go day by day. So I say like, today's an okay day. There's not a lot of lingering anxiety or a lot of things to worry about. There's a little bit of sun outside. Um, don't really have anywhere to be today. So I just try to I try to take things that way. Because when I get into the big picture sense of the world, I make a record like this. So when I say all is good, all is in its right place, I'm talking about today. Tomorrow could be very different. Yesterday, but uh, but yeah, I mean, especially with the record, all that stuff is kind of always orbiting around. But well,
Yeah, well, what are these weeks like leading up to an album release? Because I think the album must have been finished a while ago. So what are these days? Is it just a lot of tension, a lot of not anxiety, but anxiousness, I suppose, or what are the feelings?
yeah, it's a tension and maybe a little bit of anxiety about the whole thing because, well, one thing that's strange that's sort of become normalized over the last few years is like the reliance on the internet, in
Mm.
terms of sharing things with the world, gauging reactions, conversations. It's all internet, social media based. And so when you kind of base your sense of the world or a record or anything that you're trying to do on that, it can be very bleak and strange at times.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, the record comes out in a few weeks and I'm home and we don't start touring until March. So it's kind of, I just feel like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Am I supposed to be, I don't know. That's just like a weird sort of limbo period where I guess my inner, uh, like my natural desire would be like to get out and play to celebrate the record, but it's going to be kind of delayed. So yeah, just like sitting around tense, feeling like I should be doing a lot of things, but I don't know if I should. So
But
yeah,
you raise an interesting point, and I think even for an artist as yourself, you've been around, but you're not old by any means. So have you already kind of felt that shift in the music industry where it's, as you say, it's more about numbers on a screen than kind of actual looking into people's eyes in a way?
yeah, for sure. I mean, since I especially started this project and put out the first record, I mean, it's always been a part of it, but I really feel like the last few years it's dominated the
Mm,
whole thing. With live being removed from the picture for a few
sure.
years. Um, but then in a counter to that, almost like the numeric social media, everyone competing for to become, uh, competing for like the infinite space of social media has become so ramped up.
Mm,
And which makes sense because going out and doing what we used to do, like tour all the time and the human connection has been reduced. So we're all kind of like doing the only thing that we can. I think it's kind of backfired because I feel like now it's even harder to cut through or connect
mm.
on a thing that was kind of designed to do so. So it's a very weird thing. And then once tour starts, you go out and play the shows and there's people there that might be singing along and you're like, oh, not all is pointless. It's just kind of getting to there, but it's certainly different. I don't know if and when it'll ever kind of go back to that original pre-pandemic feeling where there's this like certain level of excitement and connectivity around things, but I
Yeah,
don't know.
not to make it too kind of sociological or something, but I feel like in the 70s, you had the punk scene, and it was a really close-knit community with all those magazines and everything that was going on. And it seems like in general, a general society has become more, how would you, individualistic, I suppose, more separated from each other. Do you think that music has a role of trying to bring each other back together, or have kind of things like Spotify, and has that kind of diverged the whole, fragmented the whole audience in a way?
Yeah,
It's yeah, like I said, it's maybe too
no, it's
philosophical or
great.
something, but
No, it's a great question. It's a great thing to think about because, yeah, initially music was the thing that brought people together, and it still does
sure,
in a live sense, I think. But in the context of the internet, it kind of feels like everyone is their own competitive island, like maintaining their brand and their image and like, self promotion. And that with that comes like an inherent narcissism and kind of
sure,
self importance, which is the individualism that you're talking about. I think that's a direct result of social media uh, and going from being this fun thing that people did to now this definitive thing that people do, especially in arts, where like you have to be on it, you have to use it, you have to maintain this avatar. And so, yeah, with that comes like it has to be individualistic, which I
mm,
kind of hate. And so like that's always the conflict with me with going on there, and there's pressure to like use social media, use TikTok, because I just can't seem to approach it in a serious way that people that do it professionally, like influencers and stuff. You go on
right.
and they're so sincere and they take the whole thing so seriously. I'm like, are we living? We used to, live and then share parts of life on there. But now I feel like people are kind of living to share, which is just a fucking crazy development. Um, I just think it is. It's taking away from the sense of community uh, in music and everything. And like I said, that's why I'm excited to get back on tour because that's when you remember the point.
That you're
That can't
reminded
be
of
fabricated.
exactly, because it's not like that connectivity isn't there. It's just undershadowed by all that stuff online, I suppose. But
For sure.
is this then where a song like "Can My Flowers Even Grow Here" comes from? Where that, because the way I heard that song is I'm getting older now, and I'm realizing I'm no longer in touch with the youth, and then kind of I don't understand a lot of things that are going on in the world
Yeah.
anymore, or at least perhaps I never did. So is that where a song like that comes from? The kind of looking at the world around you and all this crazy stuff happening and not being able to make sense of it in a way.
Absolutely. And I think a big part of it is like trying to be decent, trying to be a decent person, trying to put good out into the world. And sometimes the picture is just bleak and dark and chaotic, and the world is just like becoming more separate. And I think that song comes from the question of I'm trying really, really hard to do the best I can and be a decent person and contribute. But some days it just feels pointless. Like
Mm.
can I even cultivate what I'm trying to in a landscape that has gotten to this point? And there's sort of a mention in the song too, like thinking about especially younger generations that are sort of dealing with the backlash of the choices of previous generations, like
Sure.
thinking about them too. Like, I've had a chance at least to see multiple different eras, but like kids being born into this or growing up in this, oh, it's a lot to I guess inherit on their behalf. So I don't know. It's it's
Yeah,
tough to find hope some days.
I wrote something about that down, and I can't remember if it was something specific of a song, but it feels like today. I mean, like even this year, the year's only just started, and we had this tragic earthquake in Syria and Turkey, and it feels like, and then all the bullshit that happened last year, it feels like every month it's like just waiting to happen. Okay, what tragedy does especially the younger generation have to deal with now? So
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it's relentless sometimes, and like, that's really where this record comes from, is like the balance between trying to sustain and live and like find peace and survive, but then there's like always this cloud of what is going on and going between the two states. Like, should I care? And if I care, that if I care a lot about the world and everything going on, the sort of the downside of that is that it comes with anxiety and stress because you're actually thinking about it and you're caring about it. And then there's the other
Yeah.
side where it's like, well, I've got my life and my house and my stuff that I've got to do, that I've got to maintain, and that's actually pretty okay and within the confine of my house and my neighborhood. And it's just a weird place to exist. And I don't know. It's just like you're walking down the street, sun's out, everything's fine, there's no one attacking you, but in the back of your mind you're like, it's like 75 degrees in February, and you see people out on the street that are struggling, and then you look on the news and you're like, this is going on here, and it's just like, what? How do you navigate all of this? That's what this record probably is about.
When does a record like this then start for you? Is it just a song, or just maybe just an idea of a song that kind of sets this whole thing off, or sets this whole thing in motion?
I guess it's two parts. The way I started this record is I went back to a couple of old songs that never got finished and recorded properly, just to kind of get into the headspace, like ones that I liked, that I thought were still relevant in what they were talking about, maybe more so than before when I actually wrote them. And I kind of started there to get into the headspace. And then from there, I really just asked myself, it's 2022. What can a guy with a guitar contribute to the world? Because making music for music's sake just doesn't feel right for me. So what's the answer? And the answer is talk about what's really going on, which has always been kind of a natural path for me, but one that I've kind of gotten away from. And so that was kind of it, just like answering that question. Like, well, it's easy. Look what you're going through. Look what everybody's going through. Look what's going on. Make a record about it. That's the justification for making it. That's what feels natural. And these songs, these old songs, kind of help get me in that space. So
is part of that, and you mentioned kind of straying away from that a little bit in years past, but is that kind of what you meant by it? And I don't remember the song, but kind of taking off those rose-tinted glasses and looking at the world through color.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like the point this record, the way that the reason this record exists is because of that. It's like choosing to get out of my own little bubble and be willing to be aware of what's going on. And like, that's kind of step one. Like, no, everything is not all good all the time. Even if it may be directly, so yeah, that's kind of the beginning, is like, oh, I'm going to be aware, and not good everywhere, I guess.
And then this is kind of the thematic elements, and I want to get back to some of those points a little bit later on, but I also want to give a little bit of attention to the music, because I think, and this is just my interpretation, but this was perhaps your most diverse album. I feel like it's really melodically sound without losing its edge in a way. So what was your approach musically? I mean, I like in can't remember which song it is. In San Benedetto, those kind of sharp solo bits in between, and those kind of musical choices. What went into that?
Well, another part of it too with this record was kind of, I think, accepting what I'm probably most naturally inclined to do or good at. Because I've experimented a lot over the last few records, like with genres and instrumentation that is not my comfort zone. So with this one, I think it was find a balance between the two. So not be attached to genre per se, but at least the instrumentation. Like, there wasn't even a lot of guitar on the last album, but I'm a guitar player. So it's like, don't compromise or like rid of the thing that you actually do just to kind of like self-sabotage. Like, embrace the instrument that you play. So that was a very simple, obvious way. Like, this is a guitar record again, and the last one wasn't. And then finding ways to I guess incorporate fucked up, kind of unexpected sounds to modernize it, because I'm definitely not one, like, in a sense, like, to do anything revivalist. So I think if you're gonna kind of write straightforward guitar songs. It's like, let's find a way to at least be aware of what's happening in music now. So I think that was like the guidepost for the sonics on the album. Almost like there's this song, what's the opposite thing that should happen in it, and then put that in there, and then maybe that's something new.
Do you keep up a lot with modern music then? Because some artists I hear they don't like to listen to a lot of music because they don't want to be influenced by it. But do you keep up with kind of what's going on?
Recently, yes, and for a long
Okay.
time I didn't. I was very purist, like
Mm,
stuck in the 70s, 80s, 90s, previous romanticizing previous eras. But and I was kind of resistant to new stuff for a while, but over the last few years I've like found a lot of amazing new stuff that I like, and just embraced what's happening in a way, because that's kind of like all the artists that I really love. That's sort of what they've always done is
mm.
you write songs in the way that you write them. You have your worldview, but you kind of evolve with the times in your own way. Because I just feel like it's probably essential, and it's also like what I have a genuine interest in. So moving it forward, it's all about moving it forward, I think.
It's interesting that when you said kind of evolving along with the times, that I think at least thematically goes back to the album then as well, where a lot of people are stuck in the past and they can't kind of get with the program in a way.
For sure. For sure. And like I don't want to do that in my life, or with music. Uh
But fair enough.
you know what I mean? It's been done. So
Um, I can pick one, but is there one specific song that had that was very important to you that you kind of needed to get off your chest, or I suppose all of them are, but
well, there's sort of a tie between two for different reasons. Um at least I'm dancing is a really important song to me, because I feel like it's probably most honestly the most me recording or song that I have, because it's just sort of myself embodied in a song, like how chaotic it is, how it goes between like two very different things, even um like the really stark contrast between like being nihilistic end of the world and then being like blindly optimistic. I feel like that song really captures who I am as a person. And there's like a humor to it. Like it's
right.
borderline like joke, and all that stuff together, I feel like is the most me. But also the song Big Truck Energy. You asked like a song that I really need to kind of get off my chest. That was, I think, lyrically, um, probably the most important and most intense and direct song on the record, that almost has like a discomfort to it that I like, because
Mm.
it's like really pretty head on and clear about what it's talking about. Um, so and that one actually almost didn't even make the record.
Okay.
Kiara really encouraged that one. She heard the solo demo, and I was just gonna kind of forget it. She's like, I love this song. Like, can I produce it? So she brought the whole thing to life, and I'm very glad that that one made it on. So,
Let's start with that one then. I don't drive. In America, driving is obviously an important thing. I can imagine a song like this being written like 5 minutes after encountering some road rage. So what was the kind of the lead up to the song?
um, it's kind of a combo of like a series of interactions that I've had with people. In America, you see these guys with these unnecessary giant souped up pickup trucks, and they've got like you know the right wing extremists, like guns and freedom in America and Confederate flags, and just like all this bullshit that they project every
Right.
day when they drive around their big stupid truck, and they're like big. There's a thing called rolling coal in America, which is like where a pickup truck will drive by like a small car and then just blast them with like a big cloud of black smoke.
Oh, okay.
It's just it it's insane. It's like the most insane it's like one of the most problematic mentalities that I think exist in America. Like these people and the way that they think and the way they present themselves to the world with their big stupid ass trucks and their you know their like
It's
lack of care for the environment and the messages they put out with their um so seeing that Um, some confrontations that I've had, weird looks you get. And then one of the big images that sort of inspired the song was when we were in Nashville, there was a big like Black Lives Matter protest happening in downtown Nashville. And it was a beautiful protest. And we just drove to go see what was going on. And there was this giant truck of like all these backwoods guys, like just racist Confederate flag guys circling the protest, like trying to be intimidating. And that was a lot of the song. Like I remembered that and I tried to get into their headspace and like caricaturize them, I guess. This is a very long sort of explanation, but like all of these things I then took and put into a single sort of anecdote combined. And it just kind of wrote itself because it does these days, I guess.
And I might have asked you this in previous interviews, but does it help kind of writing these songs? Does it in a way of venting frustration or something?
Definitely. I find it harder to be that direct probably in real life. Like, am I going to confront these people? It's probably pointless. It might not go well. But in the context of song, I really don't I don't feel the need to hold back at all. So being able to, process all this information and immortalize it in song is very therapeutic. I like it.
Oh, that's good to hear. The other one you mentioned was At Least I'm Dancing, and then you raised a good point with that one. There's always some tongue in cheek and some sense of humor, and this one as well is kind of there's a hint of optimism as well. At the kind of like, okay, the world could be burning, but let's kind of what you started with. Let's focus on today, and today's all right. Yeah. How do you balance kind of between hope and despair in that sense?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I think no, actually, no. The answer is like being present, focusing on today, what's going on here and now. That's really the only way that I can do it. Because if you like you get on your phone and you're just absorbing all of this stuff all the time, and it will crush you. So you have to find balance by just being okay. Make a meal, sit on a couch, hang out, do stuff you like, hang out with people you like. It's all very, very simple. It's leaning into the moment and the simple things. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I wrote a line down from which I found interesting. How can we dance together if gentle and kind are overshadowed by clever? And it reminded me of that great dictator speech by Charlie Chaplin, and there's a line in there. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. So this idea of, and I agree, and the first time I heard it, but this goes back to what we started with we have so much knowledge at our disposal, and the question then is, does it make us less or more kind? Because we talked about individualism. I had a whole course. I have a degree in American studies, so I have a whole course on individualism in America and everything. So do you think our cleverness has made us unkind in a way?
For sure. I don't think it helps. I think it's almost, that's just like a weird form of competition. Trying to outsmart people or be the best, it inherently like makes everybody turn against each other. And it's the whole like knowledge is power thing. In certain ways, yes, but at the same time, I think it's also important to remember that nobody really knows anything. So like humble yourself. It doesn't matter factually what you know or how many things that you know and found decided what to believe in or what your belief systems are. All that stuff is fine, but it's not really useful, because if it's not serving the point, which is like we're all just people living a somewhat mysterious existence in a place, if we can't always just remember that first and foremost, it's all problematic, because it just gives us more reasons to be separate from each other. Oh, like you know that, or you believe that. Well, I believe this. Okay, next thing you know. So the brains, they're the problem.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
that's sorry to interrupt, but that's where a line from Vanity March comes in for me at least, and this is something I've been thinking about a great deal. You can't see past yourself these days, and I think that's one of the biggest problems facing humanity. We can't see the world outside of ourselves. We see the evil in others, but not in ourselves. That kind of thing.
for sure. For sure. I mean, that's and the way that it's all structured now, I think with internet is like it's pushing everybody to become more and more like that.
Mm.
Um, and it's like it's all I'm not even gonna be one to say like, oh, it's internet, social, it's evil, like everything. It's
It can be beautiful.
it can be beautiful. I think the important thing is that we have to remember the main point first.
Sure.
Like none of this shit matters, what matters is like I said, it's like that humbling thought. We're all just people sharing a place. Nobody really knows anything. Like bring yourself back to earth. You're not better. I'm not better. Nobody knows more about things that actually matter. It's just like, so yeah, like do your thing, but remember that. So you're not taking it so seriously and like taking what you think so seriously because your reality is just one of 7 point however many billion. That's it. If we could all just remember that.
Final question then, going back on tour, you say it's been delayed a little bit, but you're going to play I think in April and March. So what have the preparations been like towards playing live? And then we mentioned that connection. Do you have everything figured out, or is it still a ways to go?
um Figuring each run of the tour out at in order. So we like just got the South by Southwest March post album release stuff figured out, and then now figuring out the run in the U.S. in April, and then we're coming to Europe for a whole month, which is a longer one. So then it's kind of we're starting to get into that. There's a lot more logistics that go into the international stuff, but it's really bizarre because when we did the same things years ago, it just felt very dialed in and simple and didn't really
Mm.
think too much. But things have gotten way more expensive and way more complicated. Uh, so now it just seems like so much more thought has to go into everything that you do to make it possible. So I guess it's just how it's going to be now. So it's got
It's a changing world.
it's a changing world, yeah, and it's like the risk is it's like more risk for less reward, but I don't care. We have to
It's
do it.
the final kind of observation then, but is that kind of the the fate of a traveling musician or a touring musician that there's always risk involved?
Yeah, and there always was, but now there's all these new risks. So there's all the old ones
Mm,
that are more risky in terms of just being able to afford to do it and the cost of everything and
sure.
all that stuff. But now there's like all these new elements. Um, so yeah, I guess it's not for like the faint of heart. Like you have to be like a do or die kind of person, I feel, in order to sustain this. I
What
feel personally like I have no
so
choice. So
yeah, what keeps you saying do then? Sorry to interrupt. It's a bad habit I have, but what
no,
makes
no,
you say do then?
um, just no choice, really, to be honest with you. I'm like, I'm just in too deep. I don't know how to do anything else. This is what I know. And so that's what kind of keeps pushing it forward is almost out of necessity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ron, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Another great talk. I appreciate you.